Okay, here we go.
You ready, Nate?
Yep.
Good.
Done.
Yep. Okay, I'd like to call the August 27th, 2026 meeting of the County of Oswego Industrial Development Agency. The order is 1:10 p.m. Can I get a roll call? Tim?
Sir, Pat Carroll,
Present.
Mary Ellen Chesbro, President Mark Greco,
Here.
Consultant here, Gary Sander, here, Trish Peter Clark, Nick Canal.
Present. Thank you. Austin, can you go over
I can.
the staff and guests?
Yep, I'll go over agency representatives and guests. So Austin Millock, CEO of County of Oswego IDA here. Kevin Lamontagne, CFO of the County of Oswego IDA here. Kevin Caracoli, General Counsel for the County of Oswego IDA here. Nate Emmons, staff member of Operation Oswego County here. And then I will go through guests, and if I apologize if some people get signatures and not a printed name, so I'll do my best. Jim Cannon, he is a guest from Fulton. Brenda Chapman, a guest from West Monroe. Jim Jackson, a guest from the Cleveland Constantia area. And Chris Vestigo, I believe. Vestigo, sorry. Did my best on that one.
Great.
And Scruple, I'll get Scruple right. So, so I have that. And I do not believe we have any other guests at this time for this meeting. We may be joined later on by other guests, but that is TBD.
Okay. First item on the agenda is the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Sorry. Discussion, comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So the meeting was in the Bell Times on August 13th. And election of officers.
Passing out a sheet that has the current slate of officers and some of the assignments. So you guys are signed up for?
Yeah. We have to go through one of these each and vote on each of these, or well, see then.
I nominate Nick then. You chair again.
Can we make a motion to move this late?
You can do that. Yeah.
I'll second. Sleep. Any alternatives? Sure.
Yeah. So just,
So
let me just state it for the record. Yeah, I'll state it for the record.
Officers for the IDA. Right?
Correct. Yeah, the current officers are Nick Canale, Chair, Mark Greco, Vice Chair, Tim Stahl, Secretary Treasurer, and the slate that was just proposed was to reaffirm those nominations for the next fiscal year.
Great.
Just to confirm, because it is two positions for me, I still continue to get 2 months, right? That was the agreement.
We will continue to honor the agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
Still in it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
2 months, 2 months into it.
Yeah.
Committee assignments.
So one, it's not a change, it's just an addition. So for the current committees, if you look through, each committee has 5 members except for governance, which has 4. I believe that there was Mark Greco, you were recommended to join the governance committee, so you were on 2 committees just as everybody else. I believe it was an oversight at the last meeting that had not been at our last meeting that this was done, that was not put in, but that was the intention. So governance has been flying with 4 for.
We need 3 for a quorum.
You need 3 for a quorum. Yeah, so it helps to add if you have 5 people to get 3 out of 5 versus 3 out of 4. It can be a challenge.
And that's all strictly decided by the chair, correct? So Nick gets to make that decision by himself, you're not a vote.
Correct. Yeah, that's why it's not asking for a vote for that. Yep.
So
Nick, you
all
are,
I have to do is make these assignments official.
you're reaffirming the existing, except for you're adding Mark
I
Greco.
would like to reaffirm at this time the decisions of last year on 8/25 to appoint these the same slates, with the exception of the addition of Mark Greco. So that would mean the governance committee will be me as chair, Pat, Carol, Mary Chesbro, Gary, and Mark. The audit committee will be Mark as chair, me, Pat, Tricia, and Tim as members. Finance Committee will be Tim as chair, myself, Mel, Tricia, and Gary as members. Okay? All good with that? All right, so,
One last thing I just want to state related to that, and this is something that's obviously in the bylaws, but it's also follows our committees, is that our committees need to be made up of a majority of what's considered independent members. So this establishes and carries that, and the same thing as the board as a whole. The board as a whole has to be made up of a majority of independent members, which has been reviewed by general counsel, and I'll let him say that.
Yeah, no, every one of these boards is appropriately constituted according to the APO. Just so we're clear, non-independent members, under the Oliver County's law, would be Mel as county legislator, you're part of the appointing authority, and Tim is an employee of the county, which is the appointing authority. So the finance committee has 5 members, even though Tim and Mel are on it. We satisfy the requirements.
do we need to have a majority present in order to act on anything, or just have a majority as members?
Majority is members.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
To vote of that.
That works for me.
No vote on
So
that. You
no
just-
vote necessary on that, right?
Yep.
So the officers have been nominated and approved and voted on. Committee assignments have been made. Governance committee recommendations. We just did the governance committee, it needs to be recommended to the board at this point.
So you as the chair, Nick, would make that.
So we're gonna do these individually or all?
Yep. You got to do them individually.
In the order that we did them at the governance committee, I'm assuming, correct? Got it. First item for the full board is the audit committee charter. This was recently edited at the last 2 meetings of the governance committee, and in the current form that it is stated, that I believe you all have a copy of it. It has been approved by the audit committee, the recommendations. Does anyone have any questions concerning this?
I just have like more grammatical things in both this one as well as the other finance one, but I mean, I can make notes on them and give it back. It's more just like, losing the board stuff, there's situation stuff that's all off here. So like nitpicky kind of things. But
Sort of
important,
grammar stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
no.
So
content,
no context changes.
Like,
Sounds good. No,
just
all right.
little nit.
So at
Need
this
somebody
point,
to
we can approve the general purposes of the changes and the intent of these changes. Is that correct? All right. So can I get a motion for that on the audit committee charter? Mark,
Second.
second by Mel. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is going to be the finance committee,
The governance of our-
governance committee, charter. Same scenario as the last charter. The changes are in red on the copies that we have. Similar
Same.
issues with that. We get a motion to approve that as
I'll make it.
Tim. Mark. There's the governance committee. Tim and Mark. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Finally, the finance committee charter, any substantive changes to that? Okay. We get a motion, Gary. Second, Pat. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So those 3 committee charters have been approved as stated by the governance committee or by the full board, right? And then the mission statement is next, correct?
bylaws.
Bylaws, all right, yep. Sorry, skip that. changes to the bylaws were made to reflect the changes made to the committee charters. And make everything,
Tricia, did you want to bring up your point?
Yeah, so bylaws require notification to the board members at least 7 days in advance. These were not shared at least 7 days in advance.
6 days.
6 days. So I feel like we just have to follow our policy of the bylaws we're approving or not. Approving to implement the little changes to the policy.
So we'd be tabling this to approve at our next board meeting.
Right.
fine with that. Anybody else have any issue with that? So we'll table this and make the recommendation at the time.
No issue with timeline with ABO reporting or anything like that.
It just has to happen within the fiscal year, which we're literally the first meeting of the fiscal year.
Catch, Trish.
Yeah, it's gonna say good then.
Okay. Mission statement. Is there anything else related to? That's all the governance committee. So now we need co-ideate policies.
We need to just approve the mission statement as a.
Mission statement, so.
Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm looking between the two different things. I'm sorry. It is reaffirmation of the IDA policies first. There's no changes. Kevin has reviewed those. There's no need to be made any changes to the policies as they exist.
So we will be reaffirming the policies that we affirmed a year ago. Okay? Anybody have any questions or concerns on that? Can I get a motion for that?
Make a motion.
Mel? Second? No, second. Pat? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Policies are reaffirmed at this meeting. Mission statement. Could you read it, Austin, or Kevin, one of you has restated?
This is a different option.
That's the old version. Yeah, that's what I read. I'm looking for the one that we actually did. The
This
one we
one?
did is the one that's a gray, not a colored copy. So.
Yeah, I mean, I can
Is it
read it.
draft or-
I've got it right here.
Yeah.
So option one that is recommended by the governance committee for the new mission statement would read: the County of Oswego Industrial Development Agency is committed to fostering economic growth that strengthens communities and improves quality of life across Oswego County by providing financial assistance and other support to enhance business retention, expansion, and facilitating housing options.
It usually makes sense, putting enhance in there, enhance facilitate another option.
Yeah, to enhance, I think it's to facilitate, not facilitate,
Facilitation of all housing on.
by providing financial assistance and other support to enhance business retention, expansion, and facilitate housing options.
Everybody good with that?
Everybody?
No,
That doesn't-
facilitating, it's facilitating. So you take out all the rest, Oswego County is committed to facilitating housing options. So that's grammatically, that's. Hey, Trish.
Thanks.
Wait, what?
Hello? Okay. Can we get a motion
I'll
on that?
make the motion.
Mel, second,
Second.
Mark? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I know, you did hear somebody's voice come in.
Yeah, Karen is.
Yeah, Karen on accident.
Oh,
Yep.
Kevin, you have it handwritten, right? Exactly. Just
I have it.
be sure you have it. Yep. The office.
Okay. Discussion on future meetings?
Yeah, this was just on an annual basis to understand from the board's perspective. We just want to do this from time to time, understand does, is over the last year or so, the majority of our meetings have been at 1 p.m. Pretty much between Tuesday, Wednesdays, or Thursdays. Just want to make sure that 1 p.m. is a time still works for the board as a whole. If there are any, if not, what would be a better time to consider for future meetings that haven't already been scheduled?
I would say that in the summertime, trying to get work done outside and stuff, starting at 1 o'clock meeting, it's not ideal for me. Because
Good.
you get started something, you gotta stop, you gotta go back. So to do it in the morning earlier would be more convenient for me, but if the rest of the board's happy at 1 o'clock, we can go.
And that's just really related to more of the warmer weather
Yeah,
months?
yeah.
Okay, So it's not anything that's gonna change anything right now, since we're pretty much scheduled through October and our next meeting's in November. Any other? We can bring that into consideration that, maybe from May through September, we look at,
I brought it up because you said the yearly meetings.
Yep. I brought it up.
Yeah.
Any other input from anybody? The times generally work?
One night's good.
Works for me.
Okay. We want to make sure it's, works for the board and works for those who want to be able to listen in and observe. So, okay. Okay, I will put that though, look at morning for summer months in 27.
I'll bring it up again. I don't know.
Lunch here, we're looking for 7 a.m. meetings all the time.
Yeah, that's true. That's a little.
Yeah.
A little bit. Okay. That was just a discussion, no votes on that. It's just, trying to get the input of the board.
Bert,
Turn this one to Kevin.
So I'll take this. This is a relatively, something we see fairly frequently, which is a consent to financing of one way or another. The consent by the IDA is required, as we know, because if a business is contracted with us under the pilot agreement and the other agreements that come with that. So we're now, so R.M. Barrett Motors, which is the auto dealership out on 104 on the way out of the city into Scriba, is under a pilot agreement, and they are looking at refinancing their debt. No financing aspect related to us. They're working with Pathfinder Bank. So we need to, the request is to provide consent for this refinancing, much like we have in the past. This was a pilot that we agreed when that dealership was expanded, or that about that time in March of 2019. At the same time, we did provide some financing, direct financing, which has since been paid off. So the pilot's in good standing. So I see what
So
you're
remaining term on
it. We're about 7 years in, so roughly speaking, 13 years plus minus one. Yeah, it's a 20-year pilot. Sorry, excuse me, Nick. It's a 10-year pilot.
There's 3 years.
Yeah, there's 3 of them. That's my mistake.
So
Mhm.
this has no financial impact or legal impact on the idea.
No, there'll be due diligence by staff and our special counsel, and the legal costs be paid by the client.
It's in addition to non-recourse language placed into the mortgage that does not have any financial impact to the agency.
Motion, made a motion. Second, Pat, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Industrial park expansion update.
I think this will be a group effort between myself and Nate. But I guess the first thing I want to just state is, we held the official groundbreaking, on August 8th or August 6th for the industrial park. It was a well-attended event. We had strong support from, the federal level, federal supporters, state supporters, local supporters, and I want to mention, not that it doesn't always happen this way, but it was very good to see strong bipartisan support, for the project at the federal, state, and local level. One thing that I will say is that we don't, not everyone always agrees on everything, but, when it's getting sites ready for economic development projects, in developing new infrastructure, that's usually something that's supported across the board. And so, it was a good event. It was great to see, elected leaders there, and supporting it. I don't know. I know several board members were there in attendance. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything, your thoughts of it, but it was a good day. And more to come on that. But I guess, Nate, do you want to talk about any sort of the particular things that have happened sort of between our last meeting and now related to, I think a lot of things are kind of moving now.
Yeah, there's quite a few things in motion. So the contract between the IDA and WD Malone has been reviewed, signed and certified now. So we are under contract with WD Malone. We are working towards the official notice to proceed. We are on deck to have our official first pre-construction meeting next week. So, WD Malone has gone ahead and procured some lead time items that they need. Piping, things that need to physically go into the ground, that take, many weeks to kind of actually, get on site. So, and we have allowed that particular piece to move forward. So we are, a lot of things in motion. We have, 75 submittals that are under review right now for all of that equipment that's been purchased, items that have been purchased by WD Malone. So, and that will turn into actual submittals to us for payment. So, and then we have some internal stuff that we're working on just to ensure that, the payments are processed, and that, we are applying, those invoices to the appropriate, grants, for reimbursement. So we are at that moment of literally getting shovels in the ground over the next couple of weeks.
That's what I was gonna ask. So the next couple of weeks we'll actually have.
Yeah, we got to do
Yeah.
pre-construction first. A lot of
Okay.
things to sort of still work out
Right.
with WD Malone. The next item on the list will is part of that too, just securing that particular piece as well, so they can participate, whoever the firm is, that they can participate within the construction meeting as well. So,
Yeah, but they had to, there's obviously those items, as Nate said, that, piping, all sorts of, things related to, hydrants and all that kind of stuff. You want to order months ahead of time. So you don't get to October and then, oh, well, it's not going to get here until January. And now you got to wait until the spring to actually install things. So things are moving on that part. And, they'll be digging in the ground here in a couple of weeks. So.
That's great.
so,
Very
Nice.
good news.
As you all know, this is a project that the IDA initially sort of, and honestly, there's been a lot of turnover on the board. So actually, there's some people on the board. I know Tim was here, Nick was here, back then. But honestly, this is a project that started in 2018 with the acquisition or the beginning of the acquisition of property that was finally acquired in 2021, which then turned into a full plan of where we're going with this. And then, obviously in 2023, Micron, and then, sort of the positioning this as the, preferred location in central New York for advanced manufacturing and supply chain companies because of the timing of this being done, and to support that effort. So very, very well supported, effort. We see a lot of interest, and there'll be things coming in the next following months related to businesses that are interested in locating there, but obviously they need to know when things are going to be in the ground and ready to be able to know when they can. So more to come on that, but things are moving forward as we anticipated, and interest is high.
I'd also like to say that the relationship between us and National Grid, I think, is very strong at this point. And big kudos to Susan Cole, our new National Grid representative. She's really helped pull their team together, our team together, to really work, fairly seamlessly at this point. And communication is extremely strong at this point. So it was a concern of ours initially that we thought that part of the project may lag a little bit, and I think we're fairly confident that it will run parallel to the actual construction that we're overseeing. So.
It was spoke at, Central New York Regional Planning Board yesterday. They spoke of it very highly, saying that everybody's excited about this happening. The connection with Micron and how the timing and the planning could not have been better. So it was nice to have that. Kudos to us. then.
Good to have a plan, right?
Yes, plan or be planned.
Good to have a plan.
Good thing we do in 2018 that Micron was coming.
I know.
Break that real quick.
It was a little interesting. People thought we knew 5 years in advance that Micron was coming. Didn't even know who Micron was, so.
It's true.
Crystal ball, put it on.
But no, I mean, we just knew it was a strategic location and it was important. And if we were gonna grow the industrial park, that was where we're gonna have to grow it. So anyway. All right, anything else, Nate, you wanted to add? Anything else any board members wanted to add about that? Now we can move on to the next item. Okay. Item number 10, this is related to the Oswego County Industrial Park expansion. This is the contract for construction, inspection, and related services. So as what came out of last meeting, there was a request to revise and send out the request for proposal related to the contract, construction, inspection, and administration related services. All three firms that originally responded sent back revised contracts. as we would think, the cost for those project or those contracts did change. I wanted to kind of go through, I've provided everybody sort of a matrix related to that. And actually, one of the things I wanted to, there's something that's not on here that we just found out today that is additional good information that helps, I think, the justification of where we're looking at is, and obviously doing this in public session, so be careful. But in terms of, there was one firm that addressed the scope fully, that put together a team that we felt addressed everything and didn't leave anything unclear. Has been working with us and understands the project and can get, can mobilize right away without having to spend months to understand it. Meets and exceeds our MWBE goal for the project. And I will say it is also the most expensive proposal, but it's the one that actually addresses everything in it. So I want to go through this. So CNS companies provided I'm going to go through all of them. CNS companies provided a revised proposal for construction observation and administration wraparound services for $296,865. That included, they identified down to the hour 1,488 hours of staff time and included defined expenses for the project. We had a proposal from C2AE, which is another good engineering firm. They provided a clearly defined scope. They addressed all the items, but there was not clear which personnel would be performing each task. And what we've actually found out is that in their proposal for $175,000, they did not specifically include costs for construction administration. They had a small allocation of $7,500, but based on other ones, we do not feel that would be sufficient at all. And so we would anticipate that number would grow significantly to be able to do the same amount of services that we are expecting. C2AE also had a 13-person team, multiple observation staff, multiple engineers, multiple support staff. It's very difficult to understand who would be actually on the ground at the site every day and who would actually be working with us every day. C2AE does not have experience on this project. However, they did show significant relevant experience working in similar industrial park projects in other states. We do not have any direct experience working with C2AE in the past or, to my knowledge, Oswego County, but they do have experience working with the town of Screwville and other local municipalities, including the town of Albany. As I said before, they would need to familiarize themselves with the project. They would need to meet the WD Malone GC team, which could delay startup services and construction. And then lastly, Barton and LaJudas. I will skip straight to their project cost to start. They gave us a project cost of $167,760 for 1,096 hours of staff time. They'd only really identified within that the construction observation services. They did not have additional hours in for construction administration. There was some assumptions on their end that the person who was doing construction observation could also then do construction administration within their hours. But based on their team that they've identified, that the team person did not necessarily have the experience to do that. So there was concern. They had a clearly defined scope. Their project addressed most items in the RFP, but our position is they did not have enough allocated staff time compared to other submissions for the wraparound administration services, nor a clear plan to address them. Similarly, as with C2AE, they do not have experience on this project. However, they have relevant experience on other public works projects in Oswego County and Central New York. They have direct experience working with the IDA, Oswego County, and local municipalities. And similarly, they would need to familiarize themselves with the project and meet the WD Malone team, which could delay start services and construction. They've also only identified a 2-person team. CNS had a 4-person team, as the C2AE had a 13-person team. Burton LaJuice had a 2-person team, which one was a full-time observation person and then a part-time engineer. From our review, both had strong experience with paving and road projects, but what they provided showed limited experience with, at least with those 2 staff, with other integrated infrastructure projects, which was identified at the last thing. Was very important that, this is not just a road project. This is a road and infrastructure project. They did not identify any additional support staff or funding for support staff. And as I said before, there was assumptions that the observation staff would also be doing additional tasks during their inspection time. And their proposal, and Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, had 0% MWBE utilization. C2AE did have 30% MWBE utilization, or approximately. So as I said, $296,865 for CNS for 1,488 hours of staff time, including defined expenses. $175,000 for 1,201, which isn't really 1,201 hours of staff time, in undefined expenses. So that I feel that 175,000 is not accurate because it does not include construction administration, or at least enough of an expense budget to cover that. And then 167,760 for 1,096 hours of staff time, with no identified expenses, and really it looks like it's only covering the observation services. So my recommendation, staff recommendation is, IDA recommendation is to approve CNS companies. It is a more expensive project, but they understand the project the most, and they understand what we need to do to reduce any risk that we have to getting the project done completed, as well as collecting every dollar of grant dollars that's been attached to this project. And that is a concern and risk that I have if we don't have the people who can help us do that. So,
Questions for Austin? Well, it would appear that the other two, ENL and C2A, they have similar, they're very close in price now.
yeah. And they both didn't really address the construction administration portion, so I think that's, they're close on, construction observation costs. Nate, is there anything related to, did I misrepresent at all the C2AE, what they had identified?
No,
Yeah.
there's 161 hours that are not accounted for in terms of their quoted price. And so those have been identified as somewhat fluid in terms of they anticipate 161 additional hours needed, perhaps more, but that's not accounted for in their actual quoted price. So, the concern is that you start with 175 with their quote, and that will go up from there, depending on what our actual needs are as they get into the project. BNL, they don't identify any of or recognize any of those needs that we've identified in the RFP for construction administration. So I think the fear there is not only that they did not identify that as a need of ours, but secondly, I think it was safe to say that once those needs are identified, their also bottom line costs will increase. So I think when we looked at the CNS proposal, we felt very confident that they identified and recognized all of the full complexity of the RFP, and we're able to respond to each and every section of it, including the SWIFT inspections that are a separate piece of this that are not identified, in particular in the BNL proposal, that are a needed separate inspection line that cannot be included in the 1,040 hours dedicated to the roadway and other infrastructure inspections. So that was another piece of the BNL proposal, and I'm like, well, you didn't fully also respond to that part of the new RFP. The other thing I will say is that Tim was part of a little bit of this review. We brought him in to not only look at the responses once they came on in, but we also had an opportunity to review the RFP. The RFP was it was much more explicit this time around. I think Tim would agree, to clearly articulate what our needs were. And you can judge for yourself who reflects best those needs in their proposal.
Just one last thing I want to say is I believe that all three firms are very good engineering firms.
Yes.
I just believe that because one has been in this project, they understand this project, and the other two don't necessarily understand the project fully at this time. So, and we did an initial RFP, we went back and we did another RFP, and that's our position. That's our
Yeah, so if I could appreciate you putting it back out again. I know that was a request that I made. I think there were others who felt the same, but I do appreciate you taking the extra time to really flesh out that RFP, to really, get that itemization so we were able to kind of see apples and apples. And I appreciate you, letting me have a chance to review, the RFPs in advance, and Nate and I actually met yesterday, I went over. I have just a couple points that, and I won't be super wordy, I promise. I completely agree, being on the other side of the construction administration piece, the grant reimbursement piece is crucial. In a project of this size, if you are not on top of that part, you could put into risk the ability to get the money back, and obviously we can't have that. And part of that also is if you are super familiar with the project, it also makes the reimbursement process a lot easier. You don't miss things. So there definitely is potential hiccup for bringing in somebody fresh. The incumbent will always have a better knowledge, and so I do understand that, and they should have better. But I do at least appreciate giving the other two firms an opportunity to present. I do think that the price for CNS, I mean, if you look at the hourly rate, and that was kind of one of my biggest concerns here, is that the hourly rate, yes, they have more hours in it, but they're substantially more expensive. So my question really came down to, they're giving us more hours, they have a better understanding. They sure are charging a lot more per hour as well. So I just want to make sure that that made sense and I understood kind of why that was. Because that hourly rate does not explain why just because the admin is missing either two, doesn't explain why it's so much more expensive per hour.
Yeah, and I will say that in terms of for the observation and the other project engineer on it, we looked at the numbers and they were about $30 per hour more. And that is just, it's a clear number. It's a $30 per hour more. But I believe you're getting your money's worth for that $30 per hour more in terms of what they're proposing and what their experience is versus the other proposal.
And Tim, to that as well, we did recognize that, and we decided not to reach out to CNS and actually ask that question, to let the proposal stand on its own. That's the proposal that they made, so
Yeah, we weren't gonna let-
provide clear and transparency to the IDA that this is what they proposed. Okay, so.
The question is the 296K for 1488 hours. Is that not to exceed, or is that going to be, essentially, are they going to be billing us based on the hours spent, or will they be taking the total amount?
This is assumed it's a 26-week project. This is everybody's proposal. It's a 26-week project. If there is additional time, they've provided what additionally be on an hourly basis. So this is, so your question is this a not to exceed based on 26 weeks? Yes. This is
So the
that.
idea is, when they bill us, when CNS bills us, typically the way we do these projects is someone else will review the work that is being billed. They'll say, yes, they did these 48 hours, like they said they did, this is the work that was done, go ahead and pay it, right? That's what we would do. But typically because they are also administering it, they're going to be reviewing their own work. And so that was one of the questions that I kind of had, was not necessarily to bring in another agency, just, the old ox in the hen house thing, but I would recommend that the board consider bringing in what is referred to as a QA/QC engineer, on a very, like, an hourly basis, essentially, to at least review. You've got one engineer who's designed everything, you've got someone who's doing the construction work, and you have that same engineer who's reviewing the work that essentially was done. There's not really someone on our side, so to speak. We don't have an IDA engineer. We have an IDA attorney, and he would review if there were legal things. I just think it might make sense to bring in somebody independent at an hourly rate to just review it. Again, we're talking maybe 12 hours, not a whole lot of work.
I think there's value in that. I think there's other projects in the future that would have additional value. And I think that we're, one of the things that we were going to ask, and obviously it's not on the agenda here, is that we at least engage some other entities to look at doing that. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense too. And we have a lot of projects coming up. Having an engineer who is the IDA's hourly, engineer. Again, I don't want to bring in, $100,000 contract, but just somebody who it makes sense to kind of be our person.
And I think Tim and I, both having worked at the city of Oswego and having access to somebody, having that type of service is really beneficial. Absolutely.
And you don't know what you don't know. You guys know.
Correct.
Yeah. It's good to have our guy there.
So that more to come on that part, but this is related to this, and as we said, this really needs to move forward because we really can't get into the ground until we have somebody who's been identified and is going to be working on our behalf to make sure that the GC is doing everything according to county road spec as well as the infrastructure spec, and as well as then checking all the payables and making sure we're going to be able to collect every dollar that we're owed.
So did we ask for them to give us a proposal based on hours? Like, it's just weird to me. Typically, when you do RFPs based on scope of work, not based on hours, doesn't matter.
They identified what
They identified for the scope what they thought the hours would be to do that.
Okay, so
Yes.
I guess for
Yeah.
me, and I'm thinking 26 weeks, the project is whatever it is, these are the scope of work that has to be done, what is your cost to do it? These are very heavy in like hours, which of
Mm-hmm.
course are gonna be different, because this team, CNS has 4 full-time, 2 additional support people, they have 13,
Yeah.
and they've got 2, and it's hard to even look at the hours, because
Well,
it should just be scope of work.
It's actually both. There is a requirement that there's 1,040 hours of inspection for the road. That is a DOT requirement.
Yep.
So that eats up a bulk of these proposals right from the start, right? And so that is a firm number of hours. And then how the RFP was written, so that was clearly identified in the RFP
That's one of the objectives.
as one of the
Correct.
objectives. And then the other objective is help us understand, this is the other things that we need, this administrative piece. And what are you going to dedicate towards that? And so within inspection, you also need you need a senior engineer to check the resident engineer's work. So BNL clearly addressed that, but they didn't address the rest of the RFP, for example, when he said, hey, we need layman's terms assistance with the actual administration as well. And so that was the rest of the.
1,040 is 26 weeks times 40.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what is required. It's 40 hours a
Mark
week.
Velocities has 1,096 hours.
Mhm.
So with 26 weeks, they've got
They've got
2
a
hours a week.
full-time, yeah, they've got 56 hours over 26 weeks of a project engineer. It's no longer.
not much.
No.
And no time additional for construction administration.
I think my point is that if the work is not done in 26 weeks, CNS is looking to charge you an hourly rate for that. Like, I don't think that should be something that should be, the statement of work is this, it could take you 30 weeks, it could take you 26 weeks, it's this 20.
We could go back and say that we understand that this is the price and we want you to confirm that this is the price if you go over.
And the
100%.
26 weeks is with an anticipated shutdown in the winter. So it ends, at a certain
Meter
point
doesn't run.
in end of October. We go to winter, could lead a little bit into November, but we're not starting back up construction. So this is reflective of our grant period of an end date of the end of August 2027. So it leads us all the way up to the end of construction, anticipated end of construction. Why this would go over is because construction's going over. And that's not necessarily, we can't anticipate that at this point, but it is reflective of the entire construction schedule.
I get cautious about hourly things,
Understood.
because they can really run the charges up at the end.
We can request as a contingency of approval that there is not to exceed language added.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, because like I said, somebody could work like that, and he eat like men.
Well, I guess the other thing is what happens if it's a 23-week project, we get done. If it's a 23-week project, we're not bills.
Yeah, even, right, they could get it done sooner, but the
Right.
cost of the project is the cost of the project,
Right.
right? So
Yeah, so I mean, I would like to at least put a cap on it, but then if it could be lower, it could be lower based on the timing of the project. So let's do that. If you guys are good with it, put a cap to that. But obviously it could still come under if the project is done under time.
Any additional discussion on the other?
I would not, I would consider working with them on other projects, but I think as we found, you kind of need to bring someone at the beginning to understand that project or it's going to slow you down big time.
And I think the MWBE is a huge one, that's part of a grant requirement, not to
It
even
is.
address that as a big concern, that's got a whole bunch of other reporting requirements attached to it, so.
Yep.
It's important, and you've exceeded it, but seen that.
Okay. Sounds like we have consensus that CNS is where we want to go.
And I want to say here that, so this says authorization for base bid and add-ons, this is just one. All of them did it as one number, they didn't give us add-ons and everything like that. They looked at what we originally asked for and then the additional scope, and they just did it as one number. So that while that says that, it's really just one authorization.
For a motion? Looking for a motion, I'll make it. Second. So we are authorizing contract bid in its entirety, correct? Yes. Okay. That's what we're making a motion on. Motion by Tim, second by Mark. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We approved. Request for proposal from CNS.
With the contingency, right?
With the-
Yes, I will make sure that has a cap on it, but it could be lower. It
gets done.
Item 11,
Yeah, so, I'm also happy to report, so earlier this month, at the county legislature meeting out in, their annual meeting that they do out at the, Pulaski Courthouse, the county of Oswego legislature approved, a bridge, not literal bridge financing, but interim financing known as bridge financing of $6 million, for this project. This was done as a local law, as part of a capital project for the county. There are certain terms associated with this that I want to make you aware of. The county defined that the end of the project, and when all payment will have to be made in full, and that's just based on the amount that is drawn. This is not, I want to be clear, county is not writing the IDA a check for $6 million. They're setting up an account that could be drawn against for expenses, and then reimbursed. So it's not like there's gonna be a check written over here to do that. Everything has to be backed up via invoice through the contractors. And then reimbursement will be seeked as soon as is possible. Because the other part of it is that the county is going to be, the county right now, this is money that sits in the county general account. So it's generating interest based on that. The county has said we will support this project. However, the IDA will have to pay the county for whatever interest they would have gained on that if that were to have been in their account. So you don't know what that money is going to be next year. What I can say is that, and this is important for you to know, approximately in the past, the county has generated, approximately 4%. That's a very approximate number because, it changes by the day. So understanding that if that holds true, the IDA will be responsible for a number approximately that, if those numbers hold true. So we ran some numbers, just if the entire amount was out for the entire year, based on that, you're looking at about $240,000 of interest income that would have to be paid by the IDA to the county. So obviously we'll have to figure out how that works. We get reimbursement back quickly. Obviously, we're gonna want to pay that as soon as possible to try to reduce that amount and make that happen. So that'll be happening on our part, but I want to explain that because what you guys are being requested to do is to accept the terms provided by the county for this. I will say that I believe that these are good terms for the IDA. This is a mutually good project. I mean, this is a project being done on behalf of the county to support economic development. So we appreciate what the county has done, but also understand the county has to be fair and understand that they are doing this. One thing I do want to say, because we have a legislator on the board here, as I would, before any vote is taken, I would request legislator Mel Chesbro to recuse herself or abstain. I don't know, Kevin, what is the proper term
I think it would be appropriate to recuse.
from voting on this item?
Abstention is technically a no vote. Recusal, your vote isn't taken into account. So it's a 7-member board, 6 members voting.
So,
Okay.
but
Because you clearly support the project.
Well, obviously, I support that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you cannot. Yeah, I
I
would.
was very much so behind that, so that was good, that there was a real teamwork type of thing.
And so, but I would just ask for that purpose that, just to,
And we're reaching.
Hold on, I'd like to thank the legislature for.
Absolutely.
I would as well. Yeah, it was,
I know sometimes it's not an easy
Yeah.
discussion to
Yeah.
get those kinds of hard cash.
Yeah.
But it was very well organized in the presentation as to, it's not a forever loan. It is, there is an end to
Yeah.
it. We're getting interest, it's coming back. It's
Yeah.
just,
and I think the other thing it does, and obviously we'll see where it goes in the future, but it sets sort of a, hey, this is a model that could work to support future projects. I'm not gonna say it will, but if this works and if everybody's happy with it, and at the end of the day it works, then at least it's setting a model, potentially could work.
yes.
That potentially could work in the future, but
Do you have any concerns about meeting the requirements of the repay back? Because I think that's the only thing I'm a little concerned
Yeah.
about, is that all reimbursement capital project funds with interest shall be paid to the county within
Yeah.
6 months of completion of the project, but no later than.
I think that
December 31st.
what we would do is obviously if there are issues as we get closer to that deadline. We may want to address that, but I believe, I'm confident that if we can do things on our end properly, the only thing, we can't control, we can't control.
We can't control how fast we're reimbursed.
We can't control
Well,
those,
the issue.
yeah,
The
But-
budget isn't gonna wrap up till August, right?
Right.
You just said that.
Yeah.
Then we have to rely on the state to get that all clear
Yeah.
and like solidify that. I don't. have-
I would say if we have the ability to pay it off in full without having full reimbursement, we do that and then we figure it out. But it's not something that I can really say for sure right now, you know. If we've gotten some portion of reimbursement, we haven't gotten all of it, but we have the ability, then let's do it.
And I'm sure there's only a month or two involved in county.
I think it's something that they, because of being a local law, they would have to definitely go through the proper channels for
Yeah,
it,
but they
but
can do it.
yeah, but
And with Mel's leadership and support, I'm sure we'll be.
I would just say as of now, like, we'll cross that bridge financing when we get there, you know, anyway.
And look, as long as we're doing, the IDA is doing their due diligence and getting this done.
Yeah.
And not, blocking anything up being done, no, I don't see it.
No, I mean, I think we'll, you know, the intention is the project is completed by September of 2027. You know, if there is some issues, with, say, Fast New York getting, full reimbursements in that time, we'll deal with it at that time, but we'll figure it out.
We can revisit it.
I think it's important too to remember that although this might be the maiden voyage for something like this in Oswego County, this is a very difficult process that
Yes.
IDA is take. The IDA is essentially tasked by resolution to be the county's economic development arm. So these type of relationships, I think, are absolutely appropriate, and it's encouraging to see it.
Yeah, and it's a model that's done in other locations, so we're not creating any new precedent here, we're taking something that's done before.
Things are happening fast. We don't want to keep things, you guys all of a sudden, you're halfway through and now you haven't got any money, now you gotta stop work order. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the
no,
last
it's-
thing. My credit is there. Companies are looking. You've got.
Stop work orders lead to cost of projects going up too.
Yep.
So, and then if that happens, then board members will be out there, so Pat will be up.
Yeah,
More fun. More fun.
Anyway,
We used to have a shovel.
yeah.
We gotta go. We're ready.
That's pretty good.
So, anyway, is there any other questions related to this? Everything's spelled out in the local law as well as the demand promissory note, that's exhibit A for it. So, I think that we're gonna have another meeting, obviously with the request here is to authorize for the CEO to execute the agreement. I want to have just another meeting with, county administrator, county attorney, county treasurer, just to make sure that we fully understand everything and that everything is there, but authorizing to proceed. I see no issues with what's here.
Okay, can we get a motion?
So moved.
Mark, second, I'll second. Pat, any more discussion?
Just want to thank Mel and the legislature again publicly.
Me too, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Looks like we need to go into executive session. Kevin, can you explain to us why?
Yes, to discuss the financial history of a particular person or corporation, and also matters involving pending litigation, which is all consistent with Public Officers Law, Section 145.
I'll make a motion.
Tricia? Second. Second by Gary. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? Motion carries as of 2:04.
Who was